The spinal cord functions conduction because it allows us to take information up and down the spinal cord. Neurointegration, there's a lot of neural coordination that happens at the level of our spinal cord. Locomotion, it involves a continuous movement and coordination of muscles to walk, and this coordination happens at the level of the spinal cord. Reflexes is also another very important function because reflex coordination happens at the level of the spinal cord. The surface anatomy of the spinal cord. The spinal cord is inside the vertebral column. As you can see here, this is your vertebral column. The vertebral column is composed of vertebrae, and inside the vertebrae you have the vertebral foramen, and inside the vertebral foramen you can see in there the spinal cord. Spinal cord starts at the base of the brain, comes out of the skull through the foramen magnum, and goes all the way down here to the lumbar area approximately where it's going to end. The bottom part of the spinal cord is called the medullary cone or condus medullaris, as you can see right here, and that's where it ends. What continues after that is a lot of nerves that will go down towards the sacrum. This set of nerves are going to be called the cauda equina. So how do we anchor this spinal cord so it doesn't move? Because if it moves, it will create a lot of pain and it may damage the spinal cord. So it hangs from the bottom of the brain through the spinal cord, and down here is going to have some sort of ligament called the terminal phylum. We know from the spinal cord what you're going to have coming out of it are going to be nerves. Since these nerves are going to be located in your spinal cord, they're going to be called spinal nerves. We see now a cut of the spinal cord. You can see sensory nerve, motor nerve, sensory nerve, and motor nerve. You can see the fluid. This fluid not only protects the spinal cord but also the brain, therefore it's called the cerebrospinal fluid. Another thing that protects the spinal cord and the brain are going to be these three membranes that are called the meninges, dura mater, arachnoid mater, and pia mater. So right here we have the spinal cord only after we remove the vertebrae, so we can see what are the characteristics that we have. You're going to have two main areas, the white matter and then our gray matter. White matter, columns. Gray matter is going to have horns. So then what columns you're going to have? Anterior column, middle column, posterior column. Gray matter, same thing. Posterior horn, middle horn, anterior horn. The gray matter is connected by this area right here in the middle. That's called the gray commissure. In the middle of the gray commissure, we're going to have a hole. This hole is called the central canal. The central canal will allow the flow of the cerebrospinal fluid through your spinal cord. Posterior to the central canal, you're going to have the posterior median sulcus. And anterior to the central canal, you're going to have the anterior median fissure. Not only that, but we also have these nerves, sensory nerves and motor nerves. So this one is going to be sensory. This one is going to be motor. Same thing applies to this side. This is going to be sensory. This one is going to be motor. How do we know which one is sensory and which one is motor? You look right here at this enlargement. This is the posterior root ganglion. It says posterior because it's on the back. So this is going to be sensory, posterior. This is going to be anterior, therefore this is going to be motor. There are two characteristics that you need to understand about this. When the nerves are outside the spinal cord, they are going to form plexus. When the nerves are inside the spinal cord, they are going to form tracts. We have ascending tracts, which are going to be sensory because they send the information up to your brain. And we also have descending tracts. Those come down from your brain in order, for example, to move your muscles. You can see here some examples of where these tracts are located. There you have the names of these tracts. So if we keep scrolling down, we can see ascending tracts. So you have a nice figure in there. Right here it says receptors for pain. So this is in your skin. If you follow the arrow, you see it goes up. So this is going to be an ascending tract. Okay, so sensory are always ascending tracts. And you have right there descending tracts. It is descending because it goes down from your brain down into your skeletal muscles. One very important part that you need to understand is that descending tracts, the nerves that come down, they cross. As you can see here, you see they cross. Not all of them, but a big percentage of nerves cross. This crossing is called decussation. And in what part of your nervous system this happens? It happens at the level of the brainstem, specifically in the medulla oblongata. So this is called decussation of the pyramids because this part of the medulla oblongata is called the pyramids. And since they cross, that's why it's called decussation of the pyramid. The spinal nerves. Nerve is just a group of axons. The axon is covered by endoneurium. A whole bunch of axons are the fascicle. Fascicle is covered by perineurium.
And all these fascicles are covered by epineurium. Ganglion. Ganglion is a group of neuron bodies. Right here, you have larger image of the cell bodies. A ganglion is always posterior. Sensory is always posterior. Anterior is always motor. So the spinal nerves, they come out of the spinal cord, and there you're going to have something called proximal branches and also distal branches. Proximal branches refer to the roots. So for example, here's the spinal cord. You see this part? Those are proximal. So this is the dorsal root. This is the anterior root. The ones that come out of after the ganglion. Here, these ones are distal. We have 3 branches that are considered distal. This one is posterior, it goes back like this, and it's going to innervate the skin, the muscles of your back. The anterior branch is this one. It will go around like this. Eventually, it's going to give you your intercostal nerves. And then you have a third one, which is this one right here. It's going to be the meningeal branch. The meningeal branch is going to give innervation for sensation to the meninges. So right here you have the spinal cord, therefore all these ones are going to be spinal nerves. When the nerves are located outside the spinal cord, they are going to be called plexus. The neck is divided in 2 halves. The top half is going to form the cervical plexus. The bottom half is going to form the brachial plexus. In the thorax, you have these nerves. They are going to be forming the thoracic nerves. They are not called plexus, but they are just called thoracic nerves. The other 2 areas that we're going to have left are going to be the lumbar area and the sacral area. The nerves in the lumbar area form the lumbar plexus. The nerves in the sacral area are going to form the sacral plexus. A plexus is a set of nerves. So every single plexus is going to have branches because it's a set of nerves. So right here you have a cervical plexus. These are the branches. We have lesser occipital, greater auricular, transverse cervical, and subcervicalis phrenic nerve right here, and supraclavicular nerve. Phrenic nerve is very important because this nerve is going to help you move your diaphragm, and we use diaphragm for breathing. The brachial plexus, and the brachial plexus is going to have branches as well. You have intermusculocutaneous, axillary, radial, median, and ulnar. Very important nerves. These ones are the nerves that are going to help you move and feel with your arms. Remember again, I said that thoracic nerves, they are just considered thoracic nerves. We get to the lumbar plexus. So the lumbar plexus has iliohypogastric, ilioinguinal, genitofemoral, lateral femoral right here, femoral, and obturator nerve. These nerves are going to help you move the muscles that you have in the anterior part of your leg. Coccygeal plexus is just 1 or 2 branches. Sacral plexus. As you can see in there, you have superior gluteal, inferior gluteal, posterior cutaneous, tibial, fibular, pudendal. You're going to get the sciatic nerve, this big nerve right here. It's formed by the connection between the common fibular nerve and the tibial nerve. So what do we use these nerves for? To move the muscles and sensation also in the posterior part of your leg. Cutaneous innervation and dermatomes. The areas in your skin that send information to your brain, those are going to be called dermatomes. Okay, so for example, the external part of your arm, the skin, is going to send the information to your brain, and this is the area that is going to be served by that particular nerve. All this is a dermatome. All this is a dermatome. All this is a dermatome like this.
Okay, the next topic is somatic reflexes, characteristics of reflexes. There are 4 main characteristics. They require stimulation, they are quick, they are involuntary, and they are stereotype. Stereotype means that they are always happen the same way. For example, if you put your hand on a red stove, you always withdraw your hand the same way. Reflexes are involuntary because the brain doesn't work on it, right? You don't think about it when you are going to get a reflex. For example, you don't put your hand in the red stove and say, you know, I think I'm burning my hand. You just withdraw your hand without thinking about it. Reflexes are quick. Obviously, it doesn't take a long time in order to withdraw your hand from the red stove, and require stimulation, because if you don't have any stimulation, for example, if you don't put your hand in the red stove, then you will never going to get a reflex. The reflex forms a reflex arch that it has different parts. The first part is the receptor. Second part is the sensory nerve. The third part is spinal cord. The fourth part is motor nerve. The fifth part is the effector. Examples of reflexes. The stretch reflex is the most common one. More examples: flexor reflex, cross extension reflex, tendon reflex. They all use the reflex arc. The stimulus is number 1. It's going to happen at the level of the muscle spindle. Number 2 is the sensory nerve. Number 3 is the spinal cord. Number 4 is going to be the motor neuron. And number 5 is going to be the muscle. One additional step that you need to remember, if you want to contract a muscle, the other one on the opposite side must relax.